G'day listeners, welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where I get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course I have to share the mic with two random strangers I've met on the street. First off, let's welcome Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
PP.
It's going to be a different one every week.
I don't know, I've just thought why not play with it for a bit, yeah.
Two random blokes you met off the street. Sounds like you had a big Saturday night.
That's it. Yeah, well, let's...
No, all good. Good to be here. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, let's bring the other bloke.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
So for those that actually thought that little bit was pre-recorded, no. It just changes every week now. But hey boys, I might be in and out of the interview today because you know what's happened. The lure of the brisket has been too much.
It's been on
for our friend Xavier Doerr.
Yeah.
So which we'll be talking a bit about later.
Yep.
But so fortunately Xavier's safe and everyone who's listening would have heard what's going on by now. But essentially got transferred to a cargo ship, got in a bit of strife, transferred to a cargo ship. Cargo ship was heading back towards Port Lincoln, got choppered off. Now he's in the Royal Adelaide Hospital, getting set out for observations. And, of course, the brisket is on because that's what I promised him. But I didn't need reminding, but I got reminded by about 30 different people. It was kind of like, who's going to pull the trigger first? Who's going to pull it? He's in trouble. Is he good? And as soon as you knew he's good, 30 messages. Boom, 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 boom. Get the brisket on, Bites. Get the brisket on.
All right. Well, we better get this interview going then because, you're going to be a busy man. So today we're having a bit of a chat to a guy's a bit of a dinghy legend, from my era, the absolute legend, world champion, Australian champion, from the West. We don't get to talk to enough of the guys. This is an Australian from the west of Australia, which is a long, long, long way away. Australian team coached the team to the Paralympic gold. Lots of offshore stuff, Hobart, and director of Sails Australasia, I think it is, Australasia. So he's got his loft in West Oz, and he's quite the man. The interesting thing about this guy is we love to have a beer together, him and I think Bossy's had a couple as well, but we've never actually had a beer together in Australia. And the last time I saw him, I left him with one of my basketball mates in Singapore, and they were happy. They were just off having a grand old time. So welcome to the show, Mr. Paul Eldrid. How are you, bud?
Yeah, thanks, team. Yeah, good to have you. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you, my friend. Yeah, right. What can we talk about with you? I guess one of the reasons we're sort of interested in having a chat is, we're always talking about the pathway for the youngsters getting in. So at some stage we're going to come into that element and just sort of talk about whether life as a sailmaker is much good. But my memory for you, bud, and I'm stretching it a bit here, like you kind of did your own sails early on, didn't you? Even as a young fella, you were designing your own sails. Yeah,
it was pretty interesting. I got into it just almost by default, but I was dead keen on just learning about this sort of stuff. And so on the school holidays, when I was in school, I'd buy some sailcloth, and then I'd cut my own, like a sail from a mirror, or from make a windsurfer sail, or do something like that.
Bolt on down to Nana's and use a sewing machine?
Yeah, well, see, this is the funny thing, because it's not far from the truth. Because it was one school holidays when I was doing that, and it got after the first week. I'd made a windsurfer sail, a couple of jibs from a mirror, a flat one and a full one, and I was messing around with some stuff. And then my dad got me out of bed one Saturday morning. He says, "Kiddo, get in the fucking ute." What the hell? What? And he goes, "Just get in the car, we're off." And so we tore up to Osborne Park, and it was an industrial area. And next thing you know, he's got a paddle and he's bidding. And he's bidding away. And then the next thing you know, it's like, congratulations, sir, number 98. You've got yourself a sewing machine and a hot knife.
There you go.
And And so I was like, oh God, Dad's like really like keen on this. I wonder what's driven him this hard. Like, didn't see this coming at all. And so once this sewing machine and this hot knife go thrown under the ute, and then we're headed home, he turned around and he goes, never touch your mother's sewing machine.
You've caused me all sorts of strife.
Those needles on mum's sewing machine were not designed for Dacron.
Sorry, Paul.
Yeah. Must have crashed it a million times and put the timing out. But and then sort of from there it was one thing after the other, and then obviously when I got into 420s and I started, that's when I really started getting into the science of it, and I used to run back then there wasn't a lot of computer stuff, but I was forever made a mounted a picture to the boom to take photos of the mainsail when we were sailing, and then used to go down to the Photoshop and have all the photos processed, and then manually draw the lines through of all the shapes. And I had this folder that I was sort of gathering a lot of this data with, and then we actually developed some stuff that was very, very quick, and won a couple of nationals, and then went on to go 6 or 4 and a 2 in some worlds, and it was funny. Old mate Adrian Finglas, actually, in the end, he was sailing with Bichot, and then we got to this a place for one worlds in France, in Crozon, and I had a couple of sets of sails, and we went out. We did some 2-boat testing for like 2 days, and we just like smoked them every time. And then I said, "Here, boys, I'll lend you some sails. Have a go at those ones." And it was probably one of the best things I ever did, because then instantly we got them up to speed.
Right.
And then we spent the next 3 days like just making minute changes, and we just kept leapfrogging each other, and in the end got real quick. And we ended up second in that worlds, and those guys ended up top 10, I think, off the top of my head. But and I know the Age really loved that folder they had with all the diagrams and the sail meationments, and
I could just
and
imagine Age going through it.
That was sort of the embryo for me, and even after I sort of, and I took that with me all the way through to my coaching days, like when we were doing youth worlds and the open worlds and the Paralympics and all the stuff that we were doing. I sort of took a lot of the skills that I'd sort of learned at a very young age doing that stuff with me, and even to this day, I'm still now doing it on Grand Prix race yachts.
Was there someone?
Boss, can we just go back to when you first started sailing?
Yeah.
What was that always there? The why does this work? Why is that like that? Why does that happen? Is that the questions you ask yourself? Because majority of kids, when they first start sailing, it's like, oh, here's a mainsail, here's a jib, pull that rope, go and just go that way and that way. There's a very few people that would ask those questions, and that's obviously what was going on in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I was always fascinated by it. But I was always quite driven as a kid, and I think where it all started, but I'm also aware of the fact that there's no silver bullet with sailing, and I say this to my customers and everyone who rings me for advice and whatever. There's no magic bullet. And I was telling someone the other day, it's like, I got good when I did my first state championships when I was like 11 or 12 or something like that, and I got 52nd out of 57 boats or something, And I walked away from that saying, I'm never going to go do that poorly again. I'm really going to get good at this. Then we worked out that, boats with Jarrah reinforcement that were strong and solid and everything weren't really good for going fast. So Dad and I had a bit of a chat. He didn't know anything about sailing. So he could have got me into a better mirror dinghy. And then, and through the support of my parents, we sort of said, right, Fremantle sail on a Saturday, Netherlands on Saturday morning, Netherlands sail on a Saturday afternoon, Freshwater Bay sail on a Sunday morning, Netherlands sail on then Safety Bay sail on a Sunday afternoon. So basically went around the thing of like, I was sailing for, doing a race, going in, packing the boat up, tearing to the next yacht club.
Wow.
Rigging a boat again, going out, doing the same. Some days Dad would throw us the lunches from the finished boat at Fremantle. And a couple of times we actually sailed up, down through the harbour, all the way up the river, to Netherlands, and we made the start by 1:30 in the afternoon.
Wow, that's a hell of a
In an entire season, I'd done like 4 times the sailing of everybody else,
Wow.
and then that one time I sort of went from being the 12-year-old kid who got 53rd to top 10, and then 2 years later I was a world champion. 3 years later, so
what a story!
But I put that down to the fact that like I did more sailing than anybody else, and I could sail my boat blindfolded. I didn't have to think about stuff, and at the time, once I got so good at sailing the boat, then I could start to experiment with other stuff, and that just one thing led to another, and then I entered the world of R&D, and I guess that starts the question when the sail thing came in, and I'll never forget, like going into that, once the boat got to the UK, we did the UK Nationals, which Ian Walker won, but we had the least points, but we weren't a British national, so we couldn't take the crown. But we were experimenting at that point with different cuts of sails, and I was pretty happy with the combinations that I had, because we could use multiple sets of sails going into the world. So I had different sail combinations for every condition there was, and I was all the time quick, end up going back. But for me, it was sort of a bit surreal, because I was 16 or something like that, 16, 17, and I just went out and just went sailing, and we won it with a race to spare.
Unreal.
Cool
I love
story.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's it. Kids,
That's
kids,
it.
Obviously,
that's what you need to do.
in WA, it's, during that era, like sailing was a high profile, as far as you had all the cups and the teams, and they had the big backers and all those sorts of people.
Yeah.
Were there any individuals that really inspired you to do that, or it was just something you kind of fell into?
I was just boat mad, Bicey, and sailing was just something that I had a bunch of energy and had nowhere to really put it. And then in my early teens, I found sailing, and I just loved it, and couldn't do it enough. So, and then as I went through it, I mean, obviously, I was a kid, I was 13 when Australia won the America's Cup.
Yep.
That was about the time when it was all. And I guess those guys were kind of like almost heroes. Anyone who was around and knew that those guys were
Were you that pesty kid at the base in 1987 when they were there, just walking around asking for autographs?
Absolutely. Well, so here's the funny thing, is that my dad had an engineering company at the time, and he had a contract with the Italia team.
Okay.
And so we would be sitting around the dinner table at home, and they would come back in from testing at 6 o'clock at night. So we'd be sitting around the dinner table. The next thing Giorgio would be on the phone and go, Alan, we need to move the keel. She's 6 inches to the back. And so Dad would have to ring all these guys, and they'd go to the factory and they'd load the utes up, and they'd go down into the syndicates thing, and they'd get the saws out, and they would cut the holes in the bottom of the boat and move the keel 6 and weld the whole thing back up again.
Wow.
So that
Back in the old aluminium days?
Yeah, aluminium days. And so they had to have it done, I think, by midnight, so that the farers could come in and do the fairing at 1 a.m. and then have the whole thing ready to go out. And then, next day it'd be like 6 o'clock. Alan, so much better. Italia, Kookaburra. And believe it or not, upstairs in the loft right now, I've got the transom of Italia too.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, and your old man had a shitload of Italian suits in the cupboard.
Well, mate,
There was no horse heads.
So there is a funny story attached to that. Is Giorgio, the manager, he had a kid, and with him, his kid was like 8 years or 9 years old or something, and but he'd never been sailing, and he said to my dad, he goes, Alan, do you think one day Paul might take him for sailing, And Dad said, look, Paul, these guys are spending a shit ton of money with us, and they're nice people. can you just take this kid for Saturday morning down or Sunday morning down at Freshie?
Your inheritance depends on it.
take him for a sail. Just take the kid for a sail. And I said, yeah, okay. So we went and we drove down to the Italia Syndicate, picked up this kid, and he waved goodbye to his dad. And we went to Freshie, rigged the boat. And this kid had never sailed before. And so rigged the boat real quickly, then got on the water and sort of showed him, like, this is, when I say go, you get the spinnaker pole, you put this one here and that one there. And then when we drive, we do this one here, and we'll tack, and this one, whatever. So again, he's only a 9-year-old kid or something, but he was okay. So we did this race, and back then they used to call it the Red Plague. There were mirrors everywhere. It wouldn't be unusual to be 100 boats on the lawn of Freshie on a Sunday morning. You guys would have seen that down at Grange and Glenelg and everywhere in South Australia, right? So we take this kid out. We do this race and we win.
Oh, Jesus.
So then when they were on the lawn and the clapping, whatever, they send the 9-year-old up there to get the flag and get the picture of it, and he's hanging on the first flag. So then we drop him down to the compound thing after the race, and we pull up, and then he pulls us out of the thing, and he's got this flag, and he's Papa with this, and this Georgia, he's the grin and his cheeks, and he was over the moon, hugged his kid. Then he opened up all the containers and he said, Paul, you can take anything. So I've got Gucci jackets, Gucci t-shirts, all the Barchi chocolates. I think my dad was into the Peroni fridge, helping himself. But yeah, we walked away with the swag.
And you got the circular saw and cut the transom off.
Wondered why they didn't do so well for the rest of the regatta.
The backdowns didn't go that well.
So that was a good thing with the 87 defence, and I was also lucky enough, along with Brett Burville and a couple of other guys here, that we got asked to go out with DC.
Yep.
On the Stars and Stripes one day.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, that was super, super cool.
Yeah.
And so we got loaded on Betsy, which was the tender. We went out, and then we got shuffled onto this boat, and I was still a 16-year-old kid, and he goes, hey Paul, come and have a drive. So we have a drive, and he goes, so how do you do this? How do you know what you're doing? He said, well, just sail it like your dinghy, and if you think you need a bit more main sheet, talk to the main sheet trim if you want some more jib on, whatever. And he said, see those numbers? You kind of want to get to this angle to the wind and that boat speed number and have a chat with them about it. And so that was sort of like thing of dreams for a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And had a drive of Stars and Stripes and had a chat with the trimmers and got the thing doing its numbers and had a bit of fun.
Took a couple
Pouring
of
some whiskies for
what
DC.
I would do is I'd cut a little bit out of the leach and I'd be just a bit flatter on the exit. Other than that, it was all good.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because at that whole stage, mate, there was such big transition happening in sales, like that 80s period. The cup, what we saw in sales going from radial cuts to sort of cross cuts into the radials and all sorts of different materials and stuff. So you're right right there where it was all happening.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and it was good to see, at that age, probably by the time I got to 16, one of my heroes was actually Dennis Jones. And, Dennis had just qualified to go to the Youth Worlds with Anthony Dean in the 420. And a couple of times I'd gone down to Mounts Bay Sailing Club to do they'd try a 420 day. And I went out and did a race with Dennis wasn't there, but I was lucky enough. I think he lent me, his dad lent us his boat, and his sister Amanda agreed to crew for me so I could, and Dennis was one of my heroes, and then he was on Kookaburra, so for me it was just, one of the I'm going to get into 420s when I'm done with the mirror thing, and then one of my hero guys is racing on the Kookaburra, and there was a number of them around, and there was a lot of that stuff happening, which was it was a super cool time.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know Paul or hadn't heard of him, like he was he was my era, and AIDS and me. Geez, what did I say? Me that AIDS and you, Paul, and Bisho, and there was a whole bunch of young blokes that were just emerging in big names, and you were one of them. And one of the things in West Oz, you're based over there in Perth. You've taken on this role where you share a lot of your knowledge, like you're forever doing talks, and then you moved into, your role with One Sails. I don't know how you got there. We'll get to that. But one thing about you, mate, is that you're definitely out there. You were doing you've done a ton of coaching, and then you do a lot of seminars talking about things now, a lot of it with offshore stuff as well nowadays. That whole element of coaching and giving information, how beneficial was that for your sailing?
Look, I think it was, because when you start thinking to yourself about why you do things, a lot of that stuff for me and a lot of other sailors who have been real good at it and are good at it, a lot of the stuff comes natural, and you actually don't think a lot about the processes that you actually do. When you try and impart that knowledge to other people, you're having to think about it is what you actually do, and you have to almost reverse engineer what's going through your head.
Yeah.
But there's so many things, and one of the biggest things I learned from, like, especially coaching the youth worlds and like the Southeast Asian Games and all that stuff that we won, was if you actually give people, especially the young people, you give people confidence, that is like half of your battle's won. The technical skills are one thing, and that's what's so good with boats like 420s. I know they're out of date, and other people, lots of people say stuff, but what you learn in a 420 and a 470, you can take to a TP52 and a Max 72, and then you can. It's all the same stuff. All those technical guys that have done, it's almost like doing your degree or your master's in sailing. It's like doing a world or Olympic or something in one of those boats, because they are just so technical.
Yep.
And at a young age, if you can have young sailors, and this is what was so good, you get the girls' team all up was like 118 kilos. The boys' team all out's like 135 kilos. Now, as a coach, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get these guys to get technically good enough to set their boats up, so that in the light air, the guys are able to survive against the girls, and then that whole thing reverses when it's blowing.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is to have the technical skills to be able to do it. And a boat like a 420, you can stop, you can retune it, you can add rake, you can move the mast butt, you can put chocks level. All you're really doing is changing your sail shapes and the dynamic of the boat and how you sail it. But you can do it. And I think by me being a technical person, it was very easy for me to develop those, to chunk. And the other thing is, because I was coached by Mike Fletcher a lot. Mike Fletcher was very good at chunking information into important bits, and I sort of used him as my model to sort of go forwards, on how to impart a lot of that knowledge and the importance of that technical stuff. So once we had the technical stuff done with a lot of these young athletes, the most important thing from there was just to make them feel confident enough about the fact they had the boat speed to win, and I think the rest is history.
It's interesting because Fletcher's sort of idolised as a AIDS idolises.
I was with him on Friday night. Would you believe it?
Yeah, I think
awesome.
Fletcher.
Give him a few tips.
Oh, he's a beauty. He gets down to the Palace on the Friday night and has a couple of beers.
Well, you have to ask him if he hated my guts, because I remember
Is that what I need to do?
a coaching session in Adelaide. I was saying with Sandy Higgins.
Yeah.
And it's like 25 to 30 knots. We're in a 5.0. We're young fellas. We're first into 5.0s, and it's massive seas, just going off West Beach there. And he decides that Sandy should sail blindfolds.
Mate, you can see me shaking my head, right?
Right.
Because I can see it. Fletcher's down there on the beach. Sandy's down there ready to get sailing. You just walk down just in your wetsuit pants, harness, big muscles bulging, and Fletcher's like, who's this?
Flowing, because back then it was a big mullet.
All right. Let's move on.
So get back to the 18s, pal.
All right. So sail making, mate, was that always the destination?
No, I think that's just where I landed.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
So what was the pathway? How'd you go to where you are now, mate?
Look, I think it was kind of weird. Like without being unkind, I was in the sail making and I made sails for other people and stuff in the 420, you know, and that side that was a good business. Like one stage we were exporting to about 14 countries,
Wow.
building over 100 sets a year. You know, and I was in my 20s then and whatever, but I wasn't. And then I got the opportunity after that to do some coaching, which I sort of, I was pretty passionate about it, and so I did that. But at the same time, I sort of kept doing the sail thing, but it didn't allow me to put all my energy into the sail making thing. I enjoyed the coaching and got some amazing results.
Yeah.
But it got to the point when I don't know if things have changed now, and I'm not really that involved in it. And I guess it is. I guess now you can make a career out of it. But back then, I was a bit on the outer because I wasn't on the Australian sailings. I wasn't employed
The
by
East
them.
Coast.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I was going to
Basically.
ask you that, Paul. I was actually going, but keep going because it's leading to this.
So there, you know, Australian sailing had their own coaches. And they were also working with other teams in New South Wales and whatever. And just so, as it so happens, I would turn up with the WA team and we would win. You know, our athletes would kill it and gain selection to go to Youth Worlds and all the other stuff. And then they'd be like, okay, so we'll go to the Youth Worlds and you'll go with the Australian coach. And a lot of the sailors were like, well, hang on a minute.
He's not my coach.
Yeah, we're here and we're all right, and your coach might be okay too, but they were coaching the people that we beat quite easily. So shouldn't we be going this direction? Whether they like that or not is irrelevant, and that's in the past. So I would have to go as a subcontractor to Australian Sailing, and I did that. And a couple of times there were things that were a little bit subpar, from Australian Sailing's perspective, and from my point of view. And all the time, all I ever wanted to do was make sure that my athletes hit the ground running with the best opportunity to win. And we did that. You know, we won a lot of medals at both World Championships and Youth World Sailing, and then as it goes with the Paralympics. But having said that, after doing that for a number of years, I sort of got to the point where I was almost burnt out, and I did realise that I couldn't make a career out. There wasn't enough in it for me.
Yep.
I was working real hard, and I was getting all these results, and I was fulfilling everybody else's dreams except for my own.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
And at that point, I sort of said, I need to do, and at that point, the sail making thing was going quite well. And then I had invitations from people to get involved in some more big boat sailing and, bigger boats, bigger sails. There's more money involved,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And I did. And then I felt like I needed to pursue that for myself. And there were some opportunities to go overseas and to the States and do some, do some big boat sailing or whatever. So at that point, I sort of thought, I need to walk away from this sailing thing. It's been good, and I've achieved a lot of goals and a lot of other people's goals. But if there's ever a time, now's it. So I was out.
Which comes down to the pathway thing, we keep banging on about on the shows. The path that people take is so important, and sometimes very location orientated, if you know what I mean. That's the question I had, because I see myself and Jordan, for that matter, even though he's Papua New Guinea, Western Australia, wherever else he comes from, we're based in
Don't
Adelaide.
forget Canberra,
And Canberra, yeah. So, yeah.
the UN of us.
Yeah. The three of us, we're from Adelaide, let's say, essentially, and you've got opportunities. There's no question, but it doesn't make it easier. So you have to be really driven and/or focused to achieve goals where sometimes it might be a bit easier for the bigger centres, if you like.
Yeah.
And so Perth obviously remained in your heart. You stayed there. You chose to stay there, and that's why you ended up where you ended up now.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, obviously, I did a lot of travelling, and when I was doing the Olympic campaign in the 470, there was no home, and I spent a lot of time I spent time in Sydney living with the Beatles, and while we were doing all that thing, and probably spent more time in Queensland because that seemed to be the hub of where so much stuff was happening at the time. And luckily, I had mates like AIDS and Squark and all that crowd to hang out with and have a bit of fun. And they were like my they were family.
Yep.
During those era, and it was that was pretty cool.
So
how did it end up One Sails? Is that were there a few options you had there? Were you going to take over the Rolly Tasker loft or something like that, or?
No, look, truth be told, the business turns 21 in December. So I've been doing it for a while. That's when I really incorporated a company and started doing it properly and really took it on. And I'll never forget it because it was the 2000. It was after the Paralympics, and it was like I think the coaching the boys to the gold at the Sydney Games was my last hurrah.
Oh, yeah.
I sort of got back from that, and I thought, right, it means there's got to be an end to this, and that's when I took on the thing. And I was involved with the. Not long after that, I actually got involved in with the Quantum Group.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was with the Quantum Group for some time, and that was really good. The good thing about the Quantum Group was, it was at that point it was led by Larry Leonard, who was an extremely talented sales designer, really passionate about. He just wanted to make the best sales in the world. He wasn't awesome at selling them or doing whatever, but the guy was, and he surrounded himself with some really good designers and some other people. And the people in Australia were really good too. And at that point, Ray had the loft in Sydney, and there was Ike in Melbourne, and there was someone else then there was Ars in Perth, and there was Rodney in New Zealand, and there was a number of people, and we had a good thing going there. We used to share our knowledge, work together, do all this stuff. And the guys in the US were pretty good too. And at that point, that was early membrane days, and they were trying to break into that market, and went through all the same nightmare as everybody else of having products fail and do all the other stuff. And some of the Americans couldn't work out why they kept accusing us of over-engineering all our stuff, but we couldn't get through to them. Sailing on, off Fremantle was different than sailing on the Chesapeake.
On the Chesapeake.
and anyway, look, we had a good relationship, and we did some wonderful things, and there were good people involved, and we all had good businesses. And at that point, some 5 years, I think it was, down the track from there, the Quantum decided that they were going to take it on a different business model, and so they cancelled our contracts and told us, we'll sign a new one. And the new one was basically, you're not allowed to manufacture anything, and it's all got to come out of a box made in Sri Lanka, and here's the agreements and whatever. That was the long and short of it. So at that point, whether it was a bluff or not, I don't know, but most of us sort of said, well, that's not going to work for us, and so we left. and I think Ike sort of went backwards and forwards and managed to get something to happen. But the rest is history. For a short period, we then got involved with Evolution, but being a startup, and that just didn't have I didn't see a future in that. There was a big lack of discipline, and that just wasn't going to work. And the funny thing was in all that time, I'd always been talking to the guys at One Sails, and they were so keen to talk with us and share their knowledge with us about what they'd learned, what they were doing. And at the time, they were actually explaining to me about what they were doing in terms of their product development, in terms of their business model, and all this other stuff. And it almost sounded exactly like where the Quantum Group was when I joined it. It was just a bunch of independently owned lofts that have got passionate sailmakers in them that, maybe to their economic detriment, but, they want to produce and deliver the best sails they possibly can. So, and then with their proprietary technology, they come out with this new technology of developing this particular way of building a sail without any glue and without any films that could be 100% recyclable. And that sounded like a quite an impressive jump forwards in technology. And so we had a couple of other meetings with them, and then we signed a contract, what was that, I think 12, 13 years ago with One Sails.
Yeah.
And that has gone brilliantly ever since, and to the point whereby in the last sort of 7 or 8 years of that, they asked me to basically take on responsibility for managing the region. So I've taken that on, and we've built our dealerships all around Southeast Asia, and things are going just great.
Listeners, we're just interrupting our interview because we've got a chance to chat to Lee Randall, who's managing the whole shore program for Xavier, and it's all topical. Obviously, we're absolutely enjoying that chat with Paul. He's agreed to come back and continue. It'll be next week or the week after, something along those lines. But so a really good chat. But we really want to hear what's going on with Xavier and old mate Lee here. We've known each other for a few years now, and he's ready to give us all the information. And he looks like he's been busy. How you going, bud?
Well, I've been yachting today. It is a Sunday after all.
Correct. Sunday in Queensland. What else?
Yeah, what else would you do? And I mean, look, I had to go yachting on the Gold Coast to remind myself that it wasn't all doom and gloom and Southern Ocean.
No, and you love a good yachting day, don't you, mate? You'd be doing a fair bit of it in your time.
Yeah, done a fair bit of it, yeah. No, still actually just fallen back in love with it, though, so that's good. But anyway, yeah, Xavier. Look, he's in good nick. He's been released from hospital half an hour ago, so I guess that's the good news part of the story.
Oh, shit.
He's on the way to buy
brisket. Late with the brisket.
Yeah, might already be on the way there, mate. Although I think you might have one more night of grace. He might need one more good night of sleep before he rolls up at your place.
Here.
Yeah.
Look, he's in good spirits. He's passed all his medicals. He's got some injuries and that he's still got to nurse along, but by and large, he's in good nick.
So what happened? Look at the weather. Like there was a monster storm came through and just smashed him. Is that basically what happened, or?
Yeah, it's basically what happened. I mean, the seas and the wind are one thing, but obviously colliding with an object in the water, which we know what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was the tipping point.
Oh, What was it? A sunfish or an orca?
No, no idea.
Can you elaborate a bit on? Sorry, Lee. Can you elaborate a bit on that, because this is critically important for the global listeners who. And I'd like to talk about. I'd like to talk about the boat in general a bit later. But I said, didn't I say, Bicey? I said, did that look like it had some form of hole in the side of the boat? I don't know whether it did or not, but that was obviously the big thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny, right? I mean, it was the timing was quite strange. I was actually on a sat phone call with him. He'd lost power to his Starlink, and he wasn't able to communicate like we normally would. So he was the good old sat phone, which, as you all know, is pretty archaic in the way it communicates. It's pretty horrible. And we're actually in the middle of a call, and the call dropped. And as I hung up, about 30 seconds later, I got a text message, and it said, "Mate, it is really bad out here. I'm struggling. I need some support." And I assumed wrongly in retrospect that message had come through after the phone call. What I realise now is sat phones being sat phones, that message was actually sent before the phone call.
All right.
So I didn't react straight away because I just sent him a bunch of text messages saying, "Look, get it. I'm just going to type a heap of stuff. You respond to what you want to respond to. Let's have a chat. Let's try and make like things are normal." And just didn't hear anything back. And for about an hour and a half, and that's when I got the phone call from AMSA. So look, the reality is he was struggling. We all know how quickly the weather systems move down there. It's a bad situation, but he was well prepared. He's a good ocean racer. He had good technology. His safety was good. He was heading as north as he possibly could to try and get out of that weather or try and avoid the worst of that weather, but it moved a bit unpredictably, and here we are. But he was actually coping okay. We were definitely having to give a bit of support around that, degrading sea state and big breeze, but the impact with the whatever it was is the thing that tipped it over the edge.
Because the question we had was, if he's lost his rig, he's in, it's not a good situation. Then the photo came up, we saw that, and the rig was up still.
Yeah.
Which meant the next thing, which was he's hit something. So water ingress was not controllable.
Look, it was controllable, but it was unidentifiable where it was coming from. And when he had the impact, he went up on deck to do a quick check of the gear to make sure the rig was still up, mainly. And at that point in time, he got hit with another wave. And because he had the storm boards out but still lashed on, the wave rolled through the boat and took the storm boards.
Oh.
Then all of a sudden he's in a situation where he's got the plastic cover over the companion way, but every breaking wave is, half of it's
coming
getting straight in, right? Yeah. So again, degrading situation. And I guess that's the main thing. I mean, we've sort of been run off our feet today with armchair admirals and people commentating from the sidelines. And you just go, yeah, come on.
Yeah,
like,
don't start me.
Here's a young kid who you're one of the most driven and one of the most ambitious young blokes that I've ever dealt with.
And sensible.
And sensible, yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's taken on something and there's this edge of, there's always an element of risk with adventure sports and record setting and all the rest of it.
This is it. This is the biggest thing. I mean, what a thing to take on. I mean, let's look at the positives of it all. I mean, it's a massive thing.
Absolutely, right? So, I've been pretty, you'll see in the interviews that have gone on today, I've been pretty insistent and pretty persistent about, 99% of the population have never been through what the conditions he's been through or put themselves in that situation. And,
another
99% of the sailors.
Yes.
Not the population.
No.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And something that's really important to point out, and for the majority of the people, especially in this part of the world, won't understand, is that a Mini 650 is designed, and the rules are that it has to have positive flotation, right?
Sure.
So as far as an ocean-going boat is concerned, and there's all these people saying, oh, yeah, well, that's why they don't take below 30 footers in the Sydney Hobart, blah, blah, blah. The majority of the boats that go off in those sort of races would be below the level of this boat for an ocean racing boat, 21 feet or not. It doesn't matter. The boat is fully laden with foam on the inside of the boat and cannot sink. Now, there's a whole heap of things here that people need to understand and take into consideration. The conditions were gnarly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's hit something.
But also, not only that, but, everyone's sort of saying, well, why did he do it? Well, everything moves so quickly down there that you're forecasting any more than 72 hours out is rubbish anyway. It's marginal at best, right? He took off in great conditions. He was out in front of a low pressure system that was manageable. It was the next one after that was, a bit more extreme than what he'd really, planned for. But he was handling that okay. Yes, there was some support going on, but it was more the impact and the injuries resulting from that tipped it over the edge.
So what happens now, mate? What's the I know there's a rescue. I know Boss probably can talk to what's going on about the boat. So the boat's drifting at the moment, heading back towards Port Lincoln, as far as I understand.
Yeah. Well, it's still 160 miles out, right? So Bicey and I spoke earlier today about the possibility of salvage, and we've had a few people come at us and say, we're the best connected people in history. We'll help you out. A couple of people we'd know, anyway. But that being that as it may, it's still 160 miles out. So we can't keep an eye on it for a couple of days. And I've had a few people at Southport Yacht Club today say, "Oh, what if someone else goes and gets it?" I'm like, "Well, they want to go out there in that sort of condition and grab the boat."
They can probably have it.
Because I ain't going to go get it right now. It's travelling in the right direction, anywhere between 0.9 of a knot, 1.6 knots. There's no sails up. As BP just said, it ain't going to sink. So it is in our best interest to try and organise an effort to go and get it.
But you can see it on the tracker still, so it's all So we're all good.
How good's that? The fact the tracker's still rolling, it's good.
Yeah, funny. I actually learned something the other day when we lost the sat phone coverage. AMSA managed to get VHF contact, and then all of a sudden we started getting text messages from Xavier again. It was actually through the yellow brick tracker.
Oh, yeah.
There's a message. I have no idea. There's a messaging facility behind it.
And SAT-C in there, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then Zave's out of hospital now, as you said. He'll have a big sleep, and then he's over to Bicey's for the brisket and a bit of relax.
I'm looking forward to brisket Monday.
You might have Xavier on the house for the next 2 weeks if they recover the boat. He might keep going.
Let's not get too far out of it.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
Don't worry, I don't mind a road trip either, so Zave and I could be on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, look,
finish the trip two up, Bicey.
Yeah, well, that's been joked about too.
Okay.
But look, the primary objective last 48 hours is to secure Xavier and make sure that, and now is to make sure his physical and his mental health is concerned. And, one of the biggest things we've been talking about today in the media scrum is that, it's not insignificant what he's been through from a psychological point of view.
No.
I'm not trying to sell Xavier as the next advocate for the next big thing in men's mental health. But the reality is he's been through something that a lot of people haven't been through. And it's important that he talks about that. It's important that he owns it. And, it should be really interesting to hear the story.
Cool. All right, mate. Well, we'll follow up. We'll stay with it. Obviously, we're been invested in the whole journey, and we all get on with Xavier. He's a good boy, so we're glad to hear he's safe, and let's get the boat back, and then more fun and adventure. Appreciate you taking the time, Lee.
No, thanks, boys. Really appreciate it.
All right. Cheers, bud.
Good on you, mate.
Whew, plenty happening, boys. Good to know Zave's safe. Lots of stuff going on behind the scenes, but we'll keep everyone in the loop, but all good. Time to move on. Other news, club events.
There's a brisket being cooked at my house tomorrow.
Love it.
No, carry on.
Yeah, okay. First one in club events, my mate Peter Britton reached out. Remember, I couldn't remember all the details about the Hong Kong Flying 15 details and their racing that's going on. Well, Pete made sure that I could. It was very good. So the 23 St James Place Sunset Series is what I was trying to talk about. That's been ongoing in Hong Kong, and the Flying 15s having a grand old time. Lots of photos from Pete. So thanks, buddy. The other one, there's so many events. I might throw a few into this. The Aegean 600 starts.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Big race around the Mediterranean.
Plenty of puff on two, looks like. They're calling a record.
Third edition of the race, I believe.
They're calling a record, gents. So stand by. We'll keep a close eye. At time of recording, probably starting as we speak. So, but if you listen to this midweek, it should be all over by now.
Yep.
If you're listening on a Sunday night, she just started. So, yep. So, good luck to. Looks like a cracking event, just quietly.
Yeah,
Looks
absolutely. Looking forward to it. The other one that we need to talk about, racing that is coming up, is the Paris Test event. The Olympics Test event starts tomorrow. Or today. Basically, it's away. So all the top Olympians in the world, are about to go and get that underway. So that would be definitely something to pay attention to. One of the things that jumped out to me, boys, I don't know if you've noticed, because the test event, normally you're sending all your best competitors, and so it is really like a lead into the Olympics, who's on fire. And when you go through all the teams, in the NACRA 17s, Italy hasn't sent Tita and Banti haven't been sent.
Love to actually just see the qualification criteria and when is that met as far as selecting the team specifically.
You think they're just getting a little bit of experience? And
so what are we? We're a bit over a year out.
Yep.
And we're probably getting to in the final month or couple of months of naming all the teams, right? So this has a lot of weight behind it.
Just while we're talking NACRA 17s, congrats to Jace and Kat with their little baby Anna just popping into the world. Kat
had the obligatory photo of dad asleep with the baby in the arms. Yeah, standard.
I will say, Jace, he's married well. He's married a wonderful lass, and they'll be one happy little family, I reckon. So very big congratulations to them. The other event that's coming up next week, boys, is the 2023 Queensland Finn State Champs. You'll remember last year I mentioned this one because they have the program where you do 3 races in the morning, then you have a big long lunch and then have a nice afternoon nap. And then you do 3 races in the morning, have a big presentation in the afternoon, and just very much emphasis on the fun.
One day, seafood lunch and white wine.
Imagine having
next
fun.
day.
Imagine having fun.
Going sailing and having fun. Well, how's this?
Third day, need a little rest.
Third day's lay day.
Now, for all the event organisers out there, Finn class is decent size in Australia. This is the largest gathering of Finns in Australia. It's bigger than the Australian Champs. So they're doing something right. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
Just saying.
Gathering.
So we maybe we'll send someone down because it's not far from my house. I might go down and have a bit of a look-see. So, I did last time. Yeah. Good on them. I might even stay for the long lunch.
Of Finns.
Yes. The long lunch hosted by one Jordan Spencer.
All right. Jack Lloyd, listener of the week, lads. Let's move on.
Plenty coming through this week. It's been busy on the socials.
So busy. What have you got, boys? Tell me.
Oh, the ones are here. They're all we get them all the same.
Well, of course, we've got former listener of the week, Denise Del Mundo. She's written in several times.
She's been going
on several different topics. She's brought the what was it? The Crocs. She introduced the
cowboy Crocs
boot. The Croc boot.
That's it.
Love it. Not necessarily all that watertight. She also spoke about the phrase 100% serious 23% of the time.
Why don't we have it as a T-shirt?
Well, as a matter of fact, we did. We have the design, and that's something we should get onto. We might get onto it just after the battle flags,
boys,
a few other things. The windsurfers.
This is. I thought of one today. Right, I was pulling my jocks on, just put my undies on. Yeah. And I'm thinking
on the outside of your pants, of course, Mr. Superman.
And I was thinking, how
red
could
ones over your blue stockings?
How could it be a pair of jocks, male, female versions, whatever, but with Barcarati around the waistband, and then on the front it just says, "This is about to get 100% serious."
Mate. You're a thinking man. All right, listener of the week goes Jordan Spencer.
We got a good one too from Mike Khalil, which is
Khalil. I like this one.
Yeah, go for it, funny. BP.
Oh no, well, it's just based on giving one the bird.
Yeah.
And so basically sent in a photo of his yacht club, and everyone standing there giving us the bird. I thought that was quite cool.
Well, it wasn't us.
Not us. To his girlfriend.
Yeah, to his girlfriend. So it's the world's highest yacht club, Dillon in Colorado. His girlfriend made a trip to San Diego with friends, and she was in a dive bar with 2 friends, and they decided to be immature and sent him a picture of the 3 of them flipping him off. So he got the whole yacht club at Dillon in Colorado to fire back, which, that's proper use of your Vice Commodore powers is all I'll say.
100%. And abuse that as much as, hang on.
So mad respect to you there, my friend. Then Adrian Johnson came in. Did you see this on Messenger?
On
Yes.
one.
Explain
Yeah.
that, boss. Go on.
Well, let's just say I won't go through the exact message itself, but there was a connotation towards getting it up
Yep.
and the rainbow.
Yep.
So one can think what they will with those two things going along. But put it this way, when I did respond to him, it sounds like a good idea. He essentially spoke about getting a rainbow falling
Yep. Yep.
or get it up with the rainbow.
Yep.
So again, so I did respond with a few emojis related to the rainbow flag. Take
Nice.
from that what you will.
Nice. I love it.
It's hot time with Bice.
This is a pack show.
Oh, yeah. It's back a lot on. Transpac, gents.
Oh, yes.
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 Yeah, Transpac is on. It's being run and won as we speak. There's some good. Not half the fleet, probably a third of the fleet have finished by the time we're talking right now. And the curse has come in, the reverse curse from in the let's call it the multi-hull class. Orion, skippered by a friend of the show, Justin Schaefer, took out. He was first mod 70. The Maserati, skippered by Giovanni Soldini, second Argo, pulled out of the course. Pulled out. Then, of course, we're waiting now for all the other fleets of the. How many fleets is there? Like 7 or 8 or something? Different divisions.
How much fun would the Transpac be in a mod 70?
Oh, mate. So the finish time, 4 days, 17 hours.
Wow.
So it's just a mere little overnighter, basically.
Yeah, just a little one.
Yeah. So that was for the mods. I think that's about record for a mono hull
Oh, okay.
from memory.
Right.
So correct weather conditions. But we're a little bit off naming the exact winners at this point in time. But we're starting to see them trickle in. We're starting to see those classic shots coming in. Diamond Head bows out the water. Sharon Green up there in the chopper, getting some beauty shots of which we all love, which will make up her calendar next year.
Fantastic. Cool.
The other one, of course, this week, worth mentioning, we had a bit of fun with our mate Snowdy about the 5-0s.
Right.
We put something up on the socials in regards to Snowd copping one on the scon.
Yep.
And if you know Snowdy, copped it in the scon, all right, and you're seeing blood everywhere.
Wow.
The old metal button cap got him.
But not taking it away from the performance on the water for everyone, which was won by the Germans.
I'll get there. I'll get the names for you, bud. So
All right.
this is the 505 European
You
Championship.
take over. What do you know
505
about 505s, mate?
Yeah, but I just wanted to. I know that Boshi won't be getting the name of the winner, or Boshi can read the winner's name out if he wants, or
Agnieszka Schipilik and Holger, of course, they took the win.
it's Agnieszka
What's
Schipilik. Is pretty. You did pretty well, my friend.
Schipilik. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, you did pretty well.
Jan Philipp Hoffman and Felix Brockenhoff.
Brockerhoff.
Another. Why is the actual flags different?
Because the whilst it says Germany, it's actually a Polish flag there. And so Agnieszka is Polish, and Jess Holger Jess is German.
German.
He actually, we'd never. It's always focused on the skippers. Holger Jess has to be the most successful 5-0 crew of all time. There's no
Apart
question.
From your good self.
He can jump on any boat. Any boat he jumps on, that boat goes to the front. He's got to be the man. I tell you, the other thing is those two blokes in second, Jan Philipp and Felix, they're definitely the emerging talent in the scene.
Yep.
And big one to watch out. The legend himself, Ian Pinnell, into third. Quirky punched his way up into 5th. Philly Box and Martin Cano come up into 4th. Interesting thing with Snowdy, Mal and Snowdy were lying 4th. Snowdy gets clonked in the head. Day. They've dropped down to 10th. So, and I'll just say this.
One would clearly think it would happen the other opposite, right? Get a good crack, jump up the rankings.
I'm just going to say, Snowdy, I've said it on their Facebook post. When you're a crew, you know when the pole's coming in, so you get your head out the way. It's the skippers that get clobbered by the pole. It's never the crew. How did you do it? How? It must have fired off without him knowing. But anyway.
But anyway, anyone check out 505 Euros. There is plenty of big names in the top
Fantastic.
10 there. 100%.
Yeah, it's good. Our world's coming up very shortly.
Right, what have I got? TP52's time of recording. Menorca 52 Super Series World Cup. We got Platoon Provetia top of the list. 26, 28 respectively. Points, they've got 2 races to run on the Sunday. So let's see. Provetia are probably, a bit of the gun at the minute. Yep. So let's see what happens there. Other news, boys. Sydney Hobart entries open up this week.
Oh, yep.
So it'd be interesting just to keep an eye on who's coming around, who's going down, what's happening in that world. AC News, plenty of sailing in Barcelona this week, but being very, very light.
Yep.
So
it's getting exciting seeing all the AC40s there. Starting to mingle.
Yeah, all those foiling boats not foiling. It's pretty exciting stuff. As well as the Kiwis are in town. They'll probably be sailing by the end of the month, and the Poms, by the middle of the month, and the Poms by the end of the month. So that's all happening there, my boys.
Very cool.
What's the deal with the I don't know, I'm not asking this because I don't know the answer to the question. With the Poms boat, the 40 and the AC 40, does anyone know what's going on there? Do they compete against each other or what? In anything?
Yeah. In the lead up events, BP.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
And then the youth and the women sail in them as well. But so they can do all their development on the 40s, and then they compete.
The Poms have got their own design, right?
Hey?
Yeah, the
Poms
LQ.
got their own design.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
for
foils.
a bit of testing side. Yeah.
But then they all get put back to one design for the youth and the women's.
Okay.
And what else? Oh, the results of the Contender Worlds and the Sumoth Challenge, which I'm a big fan of this because, obviously it's around the design, sustainability, all that element. So Sumoth Challenge is, I think Trieste University won that. So congratulations to them. 3 elements that they're judged on. And then, of course, Contenders, the Contender Worlds in Denmark.
Our friend Mark Bulker, 3rd, 111 boats on the start line.
Amazing.
That's a hell of a fleet.
Hell of a fleet. Great. And congratulations to Soren Geelong, a Danish sailor doing a fantastic job. Then German Christoph Homer in 2nd, and then another Dane into 4th. So good mix, big fleet, pretty freaking cool. It's good to see the Contenders still going strong.
Yeah.
I think that's it, boys. We tried to fit a lot in.
Bit of action back, isn't it?
I'm just getting a indicator from my phone. Brisket is ready to wrap.
Okay.
So I've got to get out there, get the wrap on, and ready for serving up to our friend Xavier tomorrow.
A street wrap, or do you want?
No, not like as in
big fish.
Jordan was a cool guy. No, not that sort of wrap.
Oh, okay. Cardboard box.
All right. Speaking of which,
well, I'll give you an underlying track you can rap to, Bice. BP, let's give him a track he can rap over the top of.
We could rap to a bit of infinity.
Okay, here's one. Try this one. You can cut in for the rap. All right, listeners.
Never been good at that.
Thanks for listening to us. Good week. We've got heaps coming.
Heaps on. Heaps coming up.